You're listening to Keith Engle, the host of TGI Sports Talk on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks, one-on-one with Keith Engle. Hope everybody's doing well today. My guest today, who's not arrived yet in the green room, is Brian McRae, former Major League Baseball outfielder, centerfielder mostly, with the, as you can see on the screen, with the Royals, with the Cubs, with the Mets, with the Rockies, a little bit of the Rockies and Blue Jays. That was his last year. Spent minimal time with those two teams, but spent considerable time with his first three stops. Brian's not here with us yet, but we'll get to him. Want to watch everybody, or watch. Want to thank everybody watching this morning on TGI Sports Talk's Facebook page, our YouTube page. You can watch them all our shows live on those two. You can catch us later on Twitter. We're live on Roku today, by the way, National Streaming Sports Roku channel. All our shows air live there except the College Football Huddle, which will replay tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. By the way, had a great kickoff show getting back from our hiatus the other day. You can also catch us on National Streaming Sports YouTube page. So those are places you can catch us either live or in replay. Want a couple quick shout outs. Thumbs up, DDH. A couple quick shout outs. Ralph Williams from RW Media does some great stuff there in Pittsburgh, especially the Sports Corner every Tuesday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern, with Smokin' Jim Frazier. And he does a lot of other great stuff as well. And also, quick shout out to our favorite groups, the Bottom Line Sports, Flo and the gang over there, who do some great stuff. I once in a while will share their shows. They came in and participated in Sunday Stream of Consciousness last week a lot. Also, the Sports Authorities with John Gonzalez, no better run group than that. And also America's Pastime, the Love for Baseball. Greg Rawlings does some great job there. And he set up, if you got a favorite team, go check out and ask where the link is for that group, because Greg has set up groups for like every team. I'm a admin on the Yankee group, and an admin monitor, whatever you want to call me. I don't. But I help him out with that a little bit. And my thanks to last week's guest, Mike Bass, former Washington Redskin, Michigan Wolverine. I know we had one little controversial statement about the Players Union. I do plan on getting Byron Williams on to give a little rebuttal possibly at some point. I'm in contact with Byron. And also next week, we're still trying to fill next week's slot. My hope is for Larry Sorensen to come in. But coming up after that, the 16th, still up in the air a little bit, Sidney Moncrief, former NBA great, on the 23rd, and NBA and both great college players. Sidney Moncrief on the 23rd, Ernie DiGregorio on the 30th. Sidney obviously had a better NBA career. Arguably, they had an equal college career. Sidney at Arkansas and Ernie at Providence. So we're still waiting for Brian to come in, and when we get in, we'll talk with Brian about his career. He came up, played for his dad. I mean, I guess we'll fill some time here talking about other great father-son combinations. Couple good morning. Good morning, Dave Guyette. Good to have you with us, buddy. Tanner D doing big things. You're doing big things, buddy. Tanner, I mentioned we and other groups, by the way, that I don't broadcast live on LTS anymore. Let's Talk Sports. Again, amicable parting of the ways, just the way I wanted to approach the live portions of my show. But they still allow me to share to the Facebook page, which is again a big help to the overall visibility of this show and overall viewership. Guys, we're last 30 days on Facebook. That's not counting Twitter, YouTube a little bit, but last 30 days we've had, I don't know, 60 or 70,000 views on all our shows. It's just tremendous. And I can't thank the groups like the ones I mentioned earlier, and Tanner's group at LTS. I can't thank them more. So again, great stuff Tanner's doing over there at Let's Talk Sports, and great content. As I mentioned on Northeast, National Streaming Sports, so I've been affiliated with the very beginning. I was with Let's Talk Sports in different capacities with Dan Harris, obviously, who was my thumbs up, by the way, DDH, every show. And things are fluid. And I hope that, if guys want me to come on their shows on Let's Talk Sports, I'll be more than happy to do so, and vice versa. And their guys still come, as Tanner's in here this morning. Scott Kobe comes in a lot. Nick Botkins will come in and bust my chops a little bit. I'm a little concerned about our guest. I'm going to send him a quick message here. Let me send this real quick. We'll fill some time talking about great father-son duos. So think about that as I'm doing this. I don't have any other contact except Facebook Messenger for Brian, unfortunately. If I have a phone number, I can send somebody a text or give him a quick call. But anyway, Tanner, thanks for the kind words. What else we got here? AC Knight, new viewer, if I can see. I'm not sure who AC is. I don't think AC's been in with us before. I'm trying to recognize the profile picture. Can't do that, but welcome, AC. You're welcome to comment. Hopefully, Brian McRae, a former MLBer with, as I said, the Royals, the Mets, the Cubs, a little bit with the Rockies and the Blue Jays, are what you do here. I do a sports podcast there, AC. Not sure how I found us. I'm happy you're here, but we do a sports podcast. This is normally an interview show. I have several other shows we do since you brought it up. You can catch our Sunday Stream of Consciousness, where we talk about everything in sports and even get into some pop culture, once in a while some politics. Try to keep that to a minimum because it can get ugly. We do college football huddle on Wednesday nights, and then we do a MLB update on Friday afternoons as well. But mostly sports talk, yes, AC. But we're happy to have you with us. If you're not into sports, no problem. There's our Toronto, our Canadian correspondent, if you will. Chris F. Grave is with us. Welcome. Keep the floor warm. Deion Sanders is 57 today. Finished his career in the Blue Jays in the minors. Deion, and again, to stay on the major league kick, he played with the Yankees and the Reds, the Braves. Not the most accomplished two-sport player, by the way. Bo Jackson and Brian Jordan, I think, would fill those. Let's go Sox, the real one. AC Knight, good to have you with us. I'm assuming the Red Sox are your team, so that's a good thing. I'm sorry, I'm not a Yankee. I am a Yankee fan. Just to get back on topic a little bit, and hopefully I sent Brian a note. Hopefully he'll pop in, and sometimes these things happen. Brian, I think, is on Central Time. I'm not sure. I make it clear it's Eastern Time, but sometimes we have these mistakes, and that's what happens with live TV. So there you go. Bo's a zero. Brian McRae, who's our guest today, hopefully in a little bit. Yeah, sorry, I am. But Bo is your hero. Brian McRae played with Bo with the Royals in the early 90s. And Brian McRae was the son of Hal McRae, who was a really, really good ball player. And they don't even make the list of the best father-son duos. I mean, you can argue, I guess. Well, maybe there's a little argument. Barry and Bobby Bonds, I think, are probably number one. The Griffeys, Ken and Ken Jr., and Jr. carries that lot there. Ken Sr. was a fine player, certainly not the caliber of his son, similar to Barry Bonds and Bobby Bonds. You've got the the Alous, Moises and Felipe Alou. Standout careers for both of them. You've got the Biggios now. You've got the Guerreros now. You've got who else is playing now? The Biggios now. I'm sorry, the Biggios, not Biggios. The Bichettes right now. In the past, we've also had. Let me look at this. I brought up a little list here. that we could talk about, as we hope again to have our guest Brian McRae come in. Keith Tkachuk, hockey player. Don't know where Keith is now. What do you got here? How about Keith Tkachuk and all his kids? Keith Tkachuk. Are you talking into the thing? Sometimes that happens. I'm going to get to your question. You're too humble. The best morning show sports podcast. It's 8:09 here. Let go wake him up. I think he's in your area. I think he's still in the Missouri area. I'm not sure, but we're still trying to get to him. Talking about bloodlines, Pete Avinka. Oh boy, Pete Avinka. Why can't I say his name now? I could always say Pete Incabilia. Thank you. Had a brother who played the pros, Steve, a skinny second baseman. Pete was a manager here of the Tri-Valley. Oh my God. The Tri-City Valley Cats. I need more coffee, right? Tri-City Valley Cats for the last couple of years. He's not here this year, but he was here for 5 years or so. They were an Astros affiliate and then become an independent when the Astros and contracted, as all Major League Baseball did, their teams. Good one, Tanner. I think about, one sport players more than this. And I wanted to talk. I hope Brian comes on because I believe he's got a good story. He grew up. He played with Patrick's dad, Pat Mahomes. I want to say probably with the Mets, if I'm not mistaken. So we would have been able to talk a little bit about a young Patrick Mahomes if Brian does make it in today. Hopefully he does. All I got is his Facebook Messenger, and he hasn't been active yet. I caught him early yesterday morning. He got the link, and I know we're in good shape, but these things happen. Oh, I see. So AC's saying that Keith Tkachuk has 2 kids in the NHL. I got you now. Now, Jesus, good grief. That's a great, other sports. I was focusing on baseball, right? But there's certainly other sports. I'm trying to think now. We'll take a look at it since we got to fill some time anyway. Let me do the baseball. And you've got other sports. I'm trying to think of some right off the top of my head. They're not coming to me, but I'm sure there's some in football and basketball. Certainly hockey, as AC Knight has pointed out to us. And good morning, Rick. I didn't see you pop in. Good morning to you. Good to have you with us. So anyway, we got the Bonzes. Boy, I would say they're number 1. Griffey's at number 2. Probably, yes, because, again, Junior carries the junior member of that partnership carries the day. The Alous, Moises, and Felipe. Felipe had a very solid career. Read a great biography on Felipe Alou here just a few months ago. It was really, really good. Also played with his brothers in the Chris was bringing up brother acts, which there's been a bunch of too, and we can touch on that. He played in the same outfield with his brothers with the San Francisco Giants early on, and they all had long major league careers. Felipe, Matty, and then Jesus Alou. We have the Boones, Ray Boone and Bob Boone. And then, of course, Bob Boone had Aaron Boone and Brett Boone. So you got 3 generations in the Boones. And you may very well see another because I believe Brett's son, his name's escaping me right now, was a high draft pick last year in the MLB draft. So we could get the 4 generations of Boones. And I've been trying forever to get the Boones to come on the show and do an interview. And Bob I've chased, Brett I've chased. Brett does a great podcast, by the way, if you want to check that out. I'll give you a plug, Brett. I feel like you watch the show and I bash your brother Aaron a lot. I love it. I think Aaron's a great guy. I think Aaron was a fine ball player in his day. Had one of the biggest home runs in Yankee history. But he just is not my cup of tea as Yankees manager. Stottlemyre's, Mel Stottlemyre's solid pitcher with the Yankees back in my day. And his son Todd, who was an interviewee on the show a couple of years back, was one of the most fascinating interviews I did. Todd, had some demons and talked very frankly about them and became a solid major league pitcher. His brother Mel Jr. had a cup. I would say a cup of coffee. I don't mean to be derogatory in the majors, but became a very good pitching coach in the major leagues. Lastly, with the Marlins, I'm not sure if Mel's still there or not. I've tried to get Mel on the show. He wants to come on. We just haven't been able to kind of hook up and get a time. So let me check. You guys can feel free to comment on any other. I'm going to go through some others. Good one. Tanner D, the Joey Porters. That's a great one. AC sticking with the hockey. Brett and this is one of the great. This is one of the great father-son combos in any sport. I mean, this rivals the Bonds to me. Bobby and Brett Hull. I mean, if we were going to go all sports and rank them, they're in the top 5 at worst. Great one. Michael Jordan and Jimmy Butler. I'm not so sure. I'm not sure. You see, I love it. If this is a joke, it's very funny. I don't think Michael Jordan is Jimmy Butler's father that I'm aware of, but who knows? The Porters in Pittsburgh with the Steelers, great one. The McCaffreys, what was his dad? Obviously, the younger McCaffrey has been a great player with the Panthers and now the 49ers. His father played with the Giants and maybe the Broncos. Maybe more with the Broncos. I'm not sure, Tanner. You might be elaborate. I'm kind of flying off the cuff on that one, but I know his father did play. That's a good one. I got a few more baseball ones to go through real quick when we get there. Hello, Matt Lindoff. Great to have you with us today. Again, our guest today, scheduled to be, as you can see on the screen, Brian McRae. Brian has not joined us yet. I was hoping he'd be in the green room. Hopefully there's no problem with the, you know what? I'm going to resend this, actually, now that I think about it, just for giggles. You guys can put some more comments up and we'll certainly talk. We'll go the hour. You know, we've had these, this is live TV, right? And sometimes you don't get your, the gods don't line up and it doesn't work. But let me go to Facebook real quick and just send this to Brian again. Just for the hell of it. I'm on the wrong thing. You guys can put some more father-son combinations up and we'll discuss them. You guys have come up with some great ones so far, by the way. Very, very well done. Got my light right in front of me so I can't see what the hell I'm doing. I'll send the link one more time just so he has it fresh. If he does pop in, we'll do a short interview with him if he comes in. It's 9:17. I gave up on Brian Holloway, if you remember, about a month ago or 6 weeks ago. Brian showed up about 9:40 or something. We had a great interview, so. Orlando Brown. No, Antonio Brown. Well, I'm not sure about Orlando Brown. Antonio Brown, crazy SOB. His dad was I don't think he ever really played in the NFL, but he was a big star in the Arena Football League for sure. Boy, I'll tell you what. There you go. Ty Domi's got a son in the NHL right now. AC is bringing the heat here on his first day with us. Thank you, AC. Really happy to see you with us. The Boons just don't go away. Don't go away. Yeah. That really, we're going to see. I really believe Brett Boone's son is really going to be a really good player. His name again is escaping me right now. Ozzie. Another good one, Chris. Ozzie Virgil Jr. Ozzie the dad, the senior, is the first Latin player ever drafted. Is that true? Oh, drafted. Yeah, I want to think the Alous. I think Felipe Alou was one of the first Latin Americans ever to play. I don't even know if that's true. I mean, Sandy Amorose played with the Dodgers before Felipe Alou, but Felipe has some distinction as the first Latin player to do something. Felipe was a really fine player as well as being a great manager. One was a baseball player and the other a musician. That's a good one. Tug McGraw, by the way, not Tuck. It could have been just a typo there, but it's Tug McGraw, not Tuck. And Tim McGraw. Tim McGraw did not know his dad growing up. He didn't meet him until later in his childhood, maybe in his teen years even. Tug was a great pitcher with the Mets and the Phillies. Got the last out in the I want to say he got the last out, maybe not in the 69 series, but he did in the 1980 Phillies championship. I know he got the last out in that World Series. That's good. All good ones. You guys are doing great. See, even again, I sound like I'm patting myself on the back. I don't mean to be, because I'm I try to be humble, as Tanner called me. Sometimes we don't get the guests we want, right? Our guest today was supposed to be, as you see on the screen, Brian McRae, and we had some kind of miscommunication. Actually, Brian's active now. Maybe we'll see a Brian in a minute. Hopefully he'll be able to pop in. Sometimes it's just a logistical thing. Sometimes things come up on their end. Life happens to people. So we try to fill the time and we pivot. We'll talk about father-son combinations. I'll continue with theirs in case Brian pops in. Steve Jordan and Cam with the Vikings and the Saints. Good one, Rick Sherlock. Should know that Viking one. There's actually a conspiracy theory on the internet about Jimmy Butler. Yeah, I think I'd heard that before. I'm not a big conspiracy theory guy, AC. I'm an Occam's razor kind of guy. Usually the simplest answer is usually the right one. So I know they do have this theory out there. I'm not sure that I'd have to look, I guess. I'm not sure that the timeline works, but Ed McCaffrey, thank you. He played with the Giants and the Broncos, didn't he, Ed McCaffrey, Tanner? Pretty sure. May not even get the rest of the line. There you go. Giants and Broncos. Now, this is how to keep the floor warm. I feel like we're all on the bar at the ball, rhyming off father and son connections. Well, this was an easy one, right? I've had to carry shows by myself. One time we had Billy Martin Jr. Scheduled, who we did have on just a few weeks ago. It was a great interview. But a few years ago, I had him scheduled, and he didn't make it. So I kind of had a riff about the Billy Martin on my own, which, again, I guess, I started to say, to Chris's point about keeping the floor warm, you guys help me here, right? I asked for some help. You guys have helped us not just sit here going, hope Brian makes it in. Great job. Great job by all of you. World of Broadcaster. There's some father-son duos there, too. Great one. The Brennemans in Cincinnati. Tom is actually back now after being banned, really, for some open mic issues. You got Joe and Jack Buck. You've got the Carries, three generation of Carries. Harry, Skip, and Chip. Who else? I know I'm missing some other ones. Obviously, the Beatty family in football. That's a great one. Archie, great college player, by the way. Probably would have been a great pro player if he'd been drafted somewhere other than the lowly Saints. Took a beating, still had a decent career. I would argue that Archie, if he'd played with a really good team in the NFL, he might have been the best of all the Mannings. Plus, you got Arch coming up, Cooper's son. Cooper didn't get a chance to play in the NFL, but there was a lot of people thought he was the best athlete of all the Mannings. He was a wide receiver at Ole Miss and got hurt. That's a good one. So Tanner D, check this out. The Orlando Browns have a combo. Dad played left, and that is why Junior threw a fit for being moved to right tackle. Great piece of information there. We got here. Randy Moss did get drafted after playing tight end for LSU. Randy Moss's son. Good one, AC. A lot of stuff outside of baseball. Ken, thanks for popping in again. Ken, we mentioned the Bottom Line Sports at the top of the show, as I try to do when my 64-year-old brain reminds me. Cam and the Bottom Line Sports crew, Flo, both of them popped in Sunday and were a big part of this. And I'm glad you're jumping in to help us do this. Brian McRae scheduled to be our one-on-one guest today and has not made it in yet. I'm hoping still that he'll pop in. I haven't got a message back from him, but I do see he's active now on Facebook. But I don't know if you can go by that or not, but I appreciate you guys popping in and helping me. Ken, I'm only not going to go down this road only because for the sake of continuity, and hopefully Brian does pop in, we don't do this, but pop in Sunday because we're going to start diving into the NFL more and more. I think the Cowboys win the Eastern Division. I'll tell you that much right now. I think it's the Cowboys, Giants, Eagles, Redskins. I think the Eagles got bigger problems than people think. But we'll get into a lot of that. You know, preseason starts really this weekend, and it was an awful games last night. But we'll get into that on Sunday. So to stick with our topic, because I'm trying to keep at least the where the show was heading. We're going to interview Brian McRae about his career, but we stayed on father-son combos because Brian McRae, if you remember, was the son of Hal McRae, who was a really, really good hitter and DH. He was a good ball player all around. Broke his ankle when he was with, I think, it might have been when he first joined the Royals. He came from the Reds. There was no place for him to play. He played some with that big red machine before we were functioning on all gears, but it ended up being no place to play. He ended up getting traded for Roger Nelson and played some outfield for the Royals. He was in right field when Chris Chambliss hit that home run to win Game 5 in the 1976 ALCS. Great memory for us Yankee fans, and became one of the best DHs ever. And then he managed his son, Brian. So there's another topic, right? What managers have managed their sons? Not a lot. I talked about the Bells, Gus Bell, Buddy Bell, who became a manager, and David Bell, who was a player in Major League Baseball with the Reds and is now managing them. So, and again, Ken, I just want to make sure I don't want to blow off your question. We'll certainly talk more about Sunday when we're kind of into all kinds of topics, but just for a quick, the Browns, there's a trio downtown: Willie Brown, Ollie Brown, and Oscar Brown, all dead. Well, there's a Debbie Downer for Chris. I'm sorry. It's just a statement of fact. They get it. All passed away from individual rare illnesses. Here I am laughing, and I don't mean to be inappropriate. I sometimes laugh at very inappropriate times because there are things that go through my head that are best not spoken of. So I remember downtown Ollie Brown, but I don't know. Willie Brown played for, you guys all played in the major leagues or in different sports? I remember Willie Brown for the Raiders. Downtown Ollie Brown played for the Padres and the Phillies. I don't remember Oscar Brown. I know Cam probably hadn't gotten my message yet, but is this it for Dak? Listen, Jerry's going to pay him $60 million probably, or yes. Now, there's a lot of debate whether he's worth that kind of money or anybody's worth that kind of money. My feelings always are you're worth what somebody's willing to pay you. Now, whether you earn it, that's a different story. It is a good topic, right? And this has been a good one to keep. And Ken, I hope you stay and you got some you got some father, son, any sport. I opened this up. Brian McRae and Hal McRae have, I think you're still talking about this, but this has actually been a great filler. I still do hope Brian pops in. And again, we don't get mad at guests who don't show up. It's, sometimes it's a logistical thing. They might have something personal, a personal emergency. Could be a lot of things. So we don't ever make judgments, and we will try to reschedule Brian if he doesn't get in today. So, and a good one, Bill and Luke Walton. Another great one, AC. And on the birthday notes, because Chris is our birthday guy, Troy Percival, pretty good reliever at his time in the majors, 358 saves. Birthday today. Kevin and Keith Mitchell. I didn't know Kevin and Keith. I didn't know Kevin had a son. We interviewed. Actually, I interviewed Kevin on this show, I don't know, a year and a half ago. We had a great time. I interviewed him basically from the back of his golf cart. No, he'd made it into the clubhouse at that time, but it was an interesting interview. We had a lot of, we talked a lot about his career and some of the misconceptions of his career. And then actually it was fun because Kevin actually popped into Sunday Stream of Consciousness show one day. And and participated for about, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes. So how about Jose Cruz and Jose Cruz Jr.? Jose Cruz with the Astros, one of St. Louis before that, one of the most underrated players of his generation, I think. Not a Hall of Famer, but a really, really good player. Good outfielder, fast, good stick, little pop. Drove in a lot of runs, and his son had a decent run in the major leagues with Chris's Blue Jays. Well, you're not your Blue Jays. We found out that our Toronto Canadian correspondent, Chris. There's a good one coming up. You Googling this stuff, AC. If you got this off the top of your head, that's awesome. Awesome. What was I going to say? Hang on one second. Speaking of father-son duos, Jose Cruz Jr. Played with Toronto and a bunch of other teams. I think he ended up having quite a tour around the league. But I said Chris's Toronto Blue Jays, and I misspoke because I made an assumption when Chris and I first made contact, and he started participating very heavily in these shows, and we do appreciate all of his contributions. I made an assumption he was a Blue Jays fan. I found out he's a Yankee fan. Not a closet fan anymore because I've outed him now several times. AC, this is a great one. Joe and Marvis Frazier. That's an awesome one. Yeah, I had to look up Marvis's first name. That's a good one. Let me put that up there. I had to look up his first name. I forget about this. Marvis Frazier, and again, I think Marvis Frazier had a mediocre boxing career, if you want to call it that. Joe Frazier, one of the great heavyweights of all time. Nobody tougher than Frazier. And in my lifetime, I don't know how old you are, AC, but I know how old a lot of my audience is. I have no illusions. Go back and watch Joe Frazier fight, man. This guy led with his face. Those three Ali Frazier fights were just fabulous, all of them. And he was one of the great, I think, and maybe gotten lost because boxing, and there's a boxing show certainly on National Streaming Sports, Gloved Fist, which is on every Monday night, I think it's 7. Frank Laterzo and Jack Hirsch host that show, and they talk a lot about today's boxing and in the boxing in the past, and the sport's been dying, especially the heavyweight portion of the division. The heavyweight division has been really lacking for quite some time, and they've done I'll go back and watch these fights. I'd love to watch Frazier and Ali, and or Ali and Norton, Ali and anybody. But it's a lot of fun. That's a really good one, Chris. Hold on, I might have a note from Brian. No, that's okay. Chris has messaged me. I should make it clear. I of course still follow the Jays as you were born in Toronto. So Chris does not want to be deported from Toronto. Fair enough, Chris. I did point that out for you now. So now I can say Jose Cruz and Jose Cruz Jr. Jose Cruz Jr. big star for Chris's Blue Jays. I didn't mean to, Chris. I hope I haven't put you in any danger in Toronto. We do have a lot of viewers in Canada, and I'm really hoping I haven't put you in trouble. I didn't put your comment up there. That was the best when Kevin Mitchell jumped in, and that's his. That's this show. Was it this show? That's this show. You never was going to. It is funny. I mean, I know that, and a lot of the guys that I've interviewed, they may not jump in and comment, but I'll see them. I like that because I see some people that have maybe commented. Bobby Lundgren today. Kevin Kernan, great. I wish Kevin would. I wish we had Brian. I'm sure Kevin tuned in to see Brian. Kevin, if you're still watching, I'd love you to chime in on Brian and Hal McRae a little bit. Kevin was a big baseball writer in his time, and still is. America's favorite baseball writer. I got it wrong. His acronym there. Kevin was my first guest on this show. And we've had him on several times since, and we got to get Kevin back on because Kevin feels like I do about Major League Baseball. And Kevin, if you're still here, I'd love to get your thoughts on some of the great father-son duos. Who else is here that hasn't maybe said anything today? I guess maybe that's it. I mean, that I can see. Again, if you don't like or love the show, I guess. I don't see who's there specifically. We got a lot of people still watching us. My point being, a lot of the guys that I've interviewed will watch the shows because I'll see likes from them afterwards, and it's really kind of cool. And some guys I've stayed in close contact with, like Larry Sorensen, who hopefully we can get in to fill a spot next week. And Larry, not just a filler, Larry's a really good guest. Former Major League Baseball pitcher, does color for the Wake Forest Demon Deacons baseball and football teams. So we have him on our college football huddle show on Wednesday nights. So we're going to reach out to Larry and try to get him on next week to talk the crazy world of college football and Major League Baseball. I'm sure that he's got a lot of feelings every way. Hang on, I missed a bunch of comments. You guys keep going. Kevin, I'm sure Kevin tuned in to see Brian McRae because Kevin's an old schooler. And hopefully Brian, if Kevin's still here, I might pop him in. AC says, I know Joe son because of Tyson getting revenge of Muhammad. I'm not sure. I'm not really following that comment, AC. I don't, if you can make it a little clearer. Tyson getting revenge of Muhammad. He didn't fight Ali, Tyson, so I'm not really sure. Oh, maybe. Well, I'll tell you, if Marvis Frazier fought Ali, fought Tyson, he got killed. Just under 40, but love listening to the guys who know. There you go. I love it when younger guy. Yeah, I mean, you're a young guy. I'm just going to be 64 here in 6 days. I love talking to young guys who actually know the history of their sport. Right? I always have this conversation with young guys, especially some that have come here and watch it. Look, Alan Perales is a great example. Done a great job. Made great strides, I think, as a podcaster. He started out as a viewer of this show and commenting, and I brought him on one Friday when we needed somebody to fill, and he was nervous as hell. But now he's got all kinds of shows going on. He does a great job. But I always coached him to know the history of the sport. Too many young guys think the sports, whatever they follow, started when they started following it. You need to know the history of sports if you want to, have intelligent conversations about sports and how they may be changing or for good or bad. Best player in Major League Baseball. That's a good one. Bobby Witt. At least one of the best players, Tanner. Bobby Witt Jr. is a great player with the Royals right now, carrying a couple fantasy teams of mine, but not carrying them very far because the rest of the teams stink. But Bobby Witt, his dad was a competent Major League pitcher with the Angels and Rangers. I feel like maybe not. I feel like he came to the Yankees late in his career, but I think I'm mixing up two different guys. I did bring up Ken Griffey. I said them in the top two. To me, the Bonds is in the. There's Brian coming in now. The Bonds and the Griffeys would probably be the best father-son combinations that we've had. So listen, you guys have done a great job helping me carry this conversation, and maybe we'll try to get to some. Oh, actually, hang out. Brian's in the green room. We'll let him grab a coffee and some steak and eggs real quick. I just want to see. We'll go through these real quick. I did mention Vlad and Vlad Jr. Chris, welcome to AC. See if we got any others. Joe Calderon. Love Joe Calderon. He's a local broadcaster up in our area. Has been for years. Worked for the the local news stations. And Joe does his own thing now broadcasting and producing high school football games. Does a great job, Joe. So you can put up a link to your stuff, Joe, and we'll get it there. And that's a little too much for you to get into because I want to get Brian in here. The Leiter family. Good one. Mark is pitching well for the Yankees right now, Mark Jr., and his dad was a player back in the day, which Brian may remember. Anyway, guys, before I bring Brian in, thank you so much for helping me carry this last 30 minutes. You've done a great 40 minutes. You've done a great job, and we do have our guest today, Brian McRae, former Royal, Cub, met a little bit with the Rockies and the Blue Jays, and played with his dad. Good morning, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing good. Good morning. Everything well?
We are doing well. I was worried about you for a while when I didn't chat, but we got a great studio audience or viewers, I should say, who helped me carry.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it took me a while to get in.
No worries. That stuff happens, and I never hold it against anybody because stuff comes up and we don't worry about it. But I appreciate you making your way in today.
Thank you.
Brian, you so you grew up, I know you were born in Florida, you grew up in Missouri, and I'm assuming because you're in your formative years when you graduate high school and becoming a young man, your dad at that time was with the Royals, right? So that's why you were in Missouri at the time going to school there. I know that you were a sports star in high school. You were thinking about going to Kansas for football and baseball. You would have played both if you had gone to Kansas? You would have played both sports?
I would have had the opportunity to play both. Not sure because how Division I sports work.
Yeah.
If I would have been able to play both sports, but they said they were going to let me try it early. But I would have been on a football scholarship, and baseball could have borrowed me. So, in essence, I probably would have maybe played a little baseball my freshman year and been a football player for the rest of the time.
What position? Because I couldn't find. What position did you play in football?
I was a defensive back and a wide receiver.
Would you have played both, or would you would have had to choose one?
Probably been a defensive back.
Yeah. I know you made the decision to go because you got at least for that time. Today, maybe not so much, but you got a decent signing bonus, which kind of set your path on Major League Baseball. You ever have any regrets of not going to college and seeing what happened on the football side?
I picked the safer sport to play, and I thought that in 5 years of playing minor league ball, I would be in the big leagues, hopefully.
Yeah.
In 5 years of going to college, I wasn't going to be an NFL player. So why waste my time at school if I wanted to play baseball, and I wanted to get to the big leagues as quick as possible, and going to college wasn't going to do that.
So even if you went to Kansas, you feel like you would have gone the baseball route anyway, eventually?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You could have been injured in college, and, playing football and getting ready for football might have taken me away from the development I needed for baseball too.
Did your dad, having the success that he had in Major League Baseball, have a part in that decision?
No, it's just that I looked at my opportunities to advance, and I thought baseball, I had a better chance to get further in baseball than football.
Good point. And longevity is always going to be a thing as well, right?
Right.
I talked to a lot of guys from your era and even before, and they all felt like they were born too soon. So, right
now it's a different landscape, NIL money and things like that. But I just didn't see myself being anything more than a college football player.
Since you brought that up, I'm going to talk to you about Major League Baseball in a little bit, and how the game has changed and some of the rule changes. But you just brought up college and the NIL. What are your thoughts about somebody who was considering going to college, and now they could have just paid you? We don't even need NIL money. I could just pay you to come to the school with the new regulations this year. You think amateurism is pretty much dead. You think it's going to hurt the world of college football? I'm still a big fan. I don't know if you follow the game that much on that level.
I follow college football a lot, and I'm really into it and enjoy going to games. But I think that the money part of it is always going on. It was just going on under the table, and you just heard rumors about kids being paid and parents, families getting paid for their kid going to a certain school. I think that, it's well documented that money was changing hands, and recruitment of certain kids to certain schools were tied into dollars 30, 40, 50 years ago.
My bigger problem, I think, is the NIL and now this other money tied in when you put it together with the transfer portal where you can just go anytime you want, which I think there are times kids should be able to transfer without being punished. But now they're just basically free agents every year if they want to be, and they can just go get more money. I
think that at some point in time, there'll be some regulations. It's almost like the Wild Wild West right now.
Yeah, for sure.
It's unfortunate, but when you see the dollars that are brought into big-time college athletics and the hours, I coached at the University of Missouri in 2017.
Yeah.
And you see the hours that the kids put in. They're not students.
Yeah, it's a full-time job, right?
Yeah, it is a full-time job, and they should be compensated for some of it. And, I think that the revenue sports of football and basketball basically take care of the other sports on campus. So, I know the football, basketball players definitely should get paid. And then the non-revenue sports, I don't know how you quantify who should get what, but I still think that they're almost like full-time employees of the university.
That's all great. Do you follow? Do you have a team you follow in college football?
Growing up in Florida, I was University of Miami fan, and now University of Kansas because I almost went there, and then I root for Mizzou a little bit because I coached there.
They got a really good team right now in Missouri. I like them a lot. Dark horse getting into the playoff this year. I like them a lot.
So they'll be fun to watch this year.
Yeah, I'm a Hurricane fan by marriage, and they disappoint me every year. Every year they're ranked in the top 15 in some polls this year. I don't get it, but we'll find out. Back to baseball. You go into the minor leagues and you spend, I guess it was 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, about 5 years. Yeah.
Before you get up there, who are some of your teammates? Because I had a little trouble with the baseball reference where I don't usually have it. I can usually see the teams in minor leagues. And who are some of the guys that you were coming up with and were influences for you as you matured as a player before you got to the major leagues?
So I played AA ball with about 20 guys that made it to the big leagues. From my Memphis team, Jeff Conine, Bob Hamlin, David Howard, Jacob Brumfield, Sean Berry. They're all on my AA team in Memphis, Tennessee, and came up through the minor leagues with a lot of those guys in A ball and AA. I played 3 years in Memphis, never played AAA, so I got to see a lot of the younger guys in the Royals organization that ended up making it to the big leagues. We all had pit stops in Memphis, so that was a good experience for me. I changed positions when I was in Memphis from a second baseman to outfield, and playing there in the Southern League was close to big league competition. Robin Ventura was in that league one year. I was there. Frank Thomas, Alex Fernandez with the White Sox. The Astros had Luis Gonzalez. So there were some really good teams and some really good players, and I got to get through, the 3 years there, and it accelerated my path to the big leagues. And once I got to the big leagues from AA, I didn't have to go back to AAA, and I stayed up.
Yeah, and I found it interesting you didn't get to AAA. Spending that much time in the minor leagues and not hitting AAA and just coming up directly. There was a need. What I guess we'll touch on that. What facilitated the move when you did come to the major leagues? And I know you were there to stay once you got there.
Well, I think Terry Shumpert was the second baseman in AA at the time, and they thought I was better suited to move positions if I wanted to stay in the organization, and that move turned out to be the right thing to do. So my first year ever playing center field was the first year I got called up to the big leagues.
Yeah. Oh, really? Well, you played pretty good center field for only having played there a very short period of time.
Yeah, so I played just that one summer. I played left field in '89, and I moved to center field in 1990.
When you get to the Royals, this is a team that wasn't too far off winning a World Series a few years. They always seem to be competitive, maybe a down year here and there, but they just weren't getting over the hump. I think you played for John Wathan your first year.
Yes, I did.
Former teammate of your dad's. Tell us about that initial experience in the major leagues and playing for a former teammate. I'm sure you knew John a little bit from when you were a kid.
I knew John Wathan, and on that team were still some teammates of my dad: Willie Wilson, George Brett, Frank White, Mark Gubizad, Brett Saberhagen, just to name a few. I think there might have been a few other ones, but there was still some left from the '85 World Series team, and my dad's last year was '87, so there were still some guys from the team when he was playing there.
Wait, was your dad coaching on that team? I don't remember.
No, he was in Montreal at the time.
He was in Montreal at the time. Some of those guys I know. Brett Saberhagen, I just had on the show here a few weeks ago. Brett was a great guy to chat with. He had a very good career, obviously, and we had a lot of good conversation about some of those previous teams before you got there. So let's jump ahead a little bit. So that team is, again, okay, no playoff appearances, but then your dad takes over the team, I believe, in your second year. That's got to be an interesting experience. Did it put more pressure on you? What was the overall? How did you approach that overall? How did both of you, I guess, approach that overall?
Well, it was a different situation than we'd ever been in, and there's no playbook to how to handle it.
Yeah.
And the first year or so didn't go too well. But the second and third year, 93 and 94, full years of him being there, we were comfortable with the situation, comfortable with where I was, starting to establish myself as a big league player, and he was establishing himself as a manager. And the role that we both played was more set in stone in 93 and 94. And I think that, the things that made it uneasy early, we got through those, were able to handle them. And, I think that I didn't worry so much about being the manager's son. I was just doing what I needed to do to be a productive big league player and help my team try to win some ball games.
Yeah. When you were during those early struggles, I mean, did it affect your personal relationship with your dad, or when you were able?
No, the personal wise, it was just odd. We weren't playing well. 92, we had a bad year, bad start.
Yeah.
Good expectations. Nothing went well, and I was struggling. And you feel like you're letting the team down, and not only letting your team down, you could get your dad fired if you're not playing well. So it was just it was just some things there in that first year that just didn't go off right, and then you let all the other outside emotions from struggling, team not doing well, you're not doing well, your dad's getting criticized as a manager. Those things set in, and it took maybe a year and a half for me to not let those things set in and then just go out and play.
I got to tell you, while we're talking about your dad, real quick, I'm a little bit older than you. I'm going to be 64 here in a week, and I'm a big Yankee fan. But growing up, your dad was one of the guys I loved to watch play because of the way he played the game.
And the Yankee-Royals rivalry was outstanding.
It was out in the 70s, even into the 80s. It was absolutely outstanding. And I remember being so angry when your dad knocked Willie Randolph into left field one day in the playoff game. But that's the way the game was.
That's the way they played,
and it should have been played. And I hate. What are your thoughts about just that kind of thing? The way there's so much fraternization today, and we don't see those. Well, you can't even take a guy out like that today, or you probably get suspended for a month. You think that's hurting the game of baseball? The way it's a little, it feels softer, and
it's not a feel. It is softer. They've changed the rules to where it's a softer game. Guys are more friendly You don't see as many rivalries. But that's the way that society has changed also.
Yeah. Great point. That's a great point. Sports does kind of mirror society, or vice versa. I don't know. Maybe sports.
Baseball players can't police themselves anymore like they used to.
Yeah.
And I thought the game was better when you were allowed to police yourself. And you guys know what's going on as players. You understand when something needs to be done. But now they won't allow you to do that. And
no.
And I don't even think some of the younger guys even understand some of the rules of the game to be able to police themselves now, because they weren't taught that. You know, we were taught to do things a different way than what they're being taught now, good, bad, or indifferent. So the game was played and taught by different individuals than it's played and taught right now.
Right. Guys take offense now if you pitch, inside even a little bit, much less throw at them, for crying out loud.
Well, pitchers are scared to throw inside, period.
That's a great point, too. Plus,
they're not taught to throw inside as much.
Yeah. I think they're afraid. Are they afraid to throw inside? They're afraid to hit guys?
They're just not taught to throw inside as much.
Yeah.
Hitters have a liberty now that we didn't have, as far as they don't worry about the inside part of the plate that much.
And guys, my guest this morning is Brian McRae, as you can see on the screen. I know you guys have got a bunch of comments, and I'll get to them before we finish up, I promise you. So, Brian, as you progress through your career with the Royals, almost always good teams, but they never quite got over the top. What was missing on those teams?
Well, I think the strike in '94 was our best chance to make it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
'93, we were real close, had a good second half of the year to stay in contention. But '94, I thought things started to click right around the time of the strike. We went on a long winning streak. We were only 3 games out, I think, of a playoff spot, and we had a winning record during the year against the White Sox and the Indians, who were ahead of us because we could outpitch them. So I think we were on the cusp of doing some pretty special things, and then the strike knocked that out. And then after the strike, the team was broken up, and I went to Chicago, and my dad ended up getting fired and being a hitting coach in Cincinnati. And the Royals went through a long period of not being able to contend, or not even acting like they wanted to contend.
You feel like, well, obviously the strike personally impacted then you and your team and your dad.
It changed the course of the 15 years or so of Royals baseball, I think. 15 to 20 years.
Having been there and been part of that strike, would you still go through that today for what the players were trying?
I think what the players are able to do now, as far as there's the salaries and no salary cap, and the starting. I think the minimum when I got into the league was right around $100,000.
Yeah.
In '90, it's $750,000 or something like that now.
Yeah.
So the sacrifices that we made, the guys today get the benefit, just like the sacrifices that the players made when they started the union and went through those wars and strikes with the owners. I was able to benefit for those things. So it's frustrating that we didn't make the playoffs while I was here, but long term, the players were able to benefit because of the sacrifices that guys made in the 90s.
Yeah. You feel like, and I had Mike Bass on, former NFL player before your time, obviously, as far as playing careers. But they had strikes. They went through a lot of stuff. And he felt like the players today didn't really recognize what they went through, what they sacrificed back in his day. Do you feel like the players today recognize that?
I think they recognize and they understand, because it's repeatedly talked about, and the story is told when you're coming up through the minor leagues.
Yeah.
And like minor league players now, they make a decent living.
Oh, yeah.
They're making, they don't have to work an odd job in the off season to supplement, what they're doing to try to get to the big leagues. And those are all because of things that happened 15, 20, 30 years ago. Some of the sacrifices that guys made that's, made their job easier as far as, they're making more than minimum wage, and they can train properly, and they can, eat properly. They have places to stay during the season and things like that, where before we were sick and we're living like 6-7 deep in an apartment in the minor leagues. That's no way to get your body ready.
No, absolutely. As your career came to a close in Kansas City, would you have preferred to spend your entire career in Kansas City, or was moving on a good thing for you?
I think moving on was a good thing for me because what the Royals were doing, they were in transition, new ownership group, and they cut the payroll. They weren't going to be competitive. Going to Chicago was great. I enjoyed living in Chicago, playing at Wrigley, playing day games. That fit. The National League style of play fit me. So I really enjoyed that. I missed Kansas City because that's where I grew up. Been hanging out at the ballpark in Kansas City since 1973. But going to Chicago was a great move for my career.
And so you weren't there when your dad got fired. Do you think that would have been was it a godsend that you weren't there? Would have been? I would think it would be awkward for you.
I mean, we were there together, and it was during the strike when he got fired, but we knew we weren't coming back.
Okay. I guess when I was looking at the timeline, it looked like you had moved on when he got actually fired, but
I think he got fired sometime during the offseason before I got traded to the Cubs when the basic agreement got settled and they settled all the lockout strike stuff.
What was his relationship with the Royals, where he really made his name in the major leagues? What was his relationship after getting fired there?
It was still good. It was no hard feelings. The organization was making a change.
Yeah. As
far as the way they were going to run things. And it had nothing to do with my dad personally. Yeah. We had a winning record and we're close to being a playoff team the last 2 years. But that wasn't going to happen again. I don't think they had a season over 500 after 94 until 2003.
You follow the Royals still today?
Yeah, I still go to Royals games, and I still follow them and enjoy watching them this year. And they've surprised people so far. They're hanging in there. They're fighting for that last wild card spot.
So you love being in Chicago. You play for, Jim Riggleman. I would say, and again, I think through your career, you played for a lot of different personalities as far as managers go. I would think Jim Riggleman was a little different than your dad, and in turn, John Wathan. What was it like playing for him in Chicago?
It was good. I enjoyed all the different personalities of managers. I enjoyed being around, and for the most part, the manager didn't do a whole lot. They set the lineup. They tried to set the tone as far as what kind of ball club we were going to be, but the players were the ones that did. They did the job. They went out there and played, and that's so. To me, whoever your manager was didn't really make a big difference because they don't do much. The players have to go out there and play.
Yeah, It's funny. I would normally ask a guy like yourself who their favorite manager to play for was, and it feels like an unfair question for you since you played for your dad. But was there somebody outside your dad that you enjoyed more than somebody else?
Only played for him for a small period of time. Was just got inducted into the Hall of Fame, Jim Leyland.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Jim.
But I was only with the Rockies for 2 weeks or a week and a half, so really didn't get a good sense of his managerial style from being a player on his team. I played against his teams for years, but I just liked the way he went about his business, and he just left you alone, let you play.
So it'd be fair to say that if there was a manager you wish you got to play for longer, it might have been Jim Leyland. Yeah,
Leyland or Fregosi that I played with a little bit with the Blue Jays.
Yeah,
very hands off, just let you play. And, I enjoyed being around the guys that just let you do your thing.
When you got to New York, obviously, well, Chicago's a big city, right? It's a little different in Kansas City, but you get to New York, which it kind of feels even different in Chicago to me. What are your thoughts on playing in under the lights in New York? And would you say that Bobby Valentine was the same as those other guys as far as letting guys play and not getting in the way?
No, he was different. He was more hands-on.
Yeah.
And he was a different type of manager. And that's a different city and different environment in New York. I'm glad I played in New York at the end of my career as opposed to being a rookie, playing after I've been around for a while, because I understood things and how everything worked in the big leagues a little bit better. For a young player, playing in New York or Chicago may not be the best, but playing my first 5 years in Kansas City helped me, shape me to get ready to play in a bigger city. I don't know if I would have been able to handle the stress and the spotlight as good as I did if I started off in New York or Chicago.
Did you enjoy your time in New York?
Yeah, I did. I lived in the city. I liked playing for the Mets. I liked the energy of the city. Night games were changed. I came from Chicago where I was playing day games all the time.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the day games and that lifestyle. When you play day games, you have a 9-to-5 job. New York I think the first year I was in New York, our game started at 7:40. So you weren't getting out of the ballpark till midnight most times. And that was a little different, a different change. But as far as the people in New York and my time in New York, I enjoyed it, and we had real good teams, and it was fun to be with, John Franco, Al Leiter, Piazza, some of those guys on the ball club that went on and do some good things, and a couple guys that are Hall of Famers. So I enjoyed my time in New York. I like playing there. I like hitting at Shea Stadium, even though it was run down and beat up at that time. But I enjoyed that ballpark and hitting there.
Have they changed the flight patterns by that time? Were the planes still
Planes still went close, but they weren't during games. They probably would fly a little bit further away from the stadium than they normally would.
Yeah. If I'm not wrong, you didn't make the postseason in your career.
No, I got traded. They made it the playoffs in '99, but I got traded before they made the playoffs or that year. So I got a playoff share of money, but I didn't actually get to play in the playoffs.
Was that? That couldn't have been a fun experience. I mean,
it was frustrating, but those things happen.
Yeah, just a game.
Yeah, I got traded, and I almost got a chance to make the playoffs the same year with the Blue Jays, and we missed it by 3 games, I think.
Yeah. I mean, your career comes to an end at a fairly young age of 31, and you struggle a little bit those last couple of years. Was it injuries? Was it what was it that – because today –
Yeah, last year, 98, I had the best year of my career, and then I got hurt in 99 and had knee surgery, and I went to spring training with the Cardinals in 2000 and didn't make it. My knee was still not there and not where it needed to be. And after playing 15 years, 10 years in the big leagues and 5 in the minor leagues, I had a decision if I wanted to try to hold on and go back and figure some things out in the minor leagues and get healthy, try to be a bench player, or get into broadcasting, which is what I wanted to do anyway. So I figured after 10 years in the big leagues, I got in young, I got out young, I'm healthy. And so I was okay with my decision to move on there and, and get my 10 years in and be fine.
Yeah, a lot of guys I talked to were not ready for that moment. It sounds like you were. So
I've been prepping for it my whole career, doing stuff with radio and TV. And
did you see? Because it's funny when I think about 31 years old and some injuries and whatnot. I mean, now there's guys that get to be 35 and they have the best years of their careers, and obviously it raises eyebrows sometimes. Did you see anything going on? Because it was starting to become more prevalent about the time you were ending.
Yeah, the weightlifting and all that. Halfway through my career, teams start hiring strength coaches and the weight room started to expand and guys were really into that. When I first came up, we were discouraged from doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah. Did you see
my career ended, then you saw that trend had changed and guys were doing things that bodybuilders were doing.
When you refer to that, do we refer about some of the performance enhancing drugs we're starting to see? Were you starting to see that?
You heard rumors, but you just saw the bodies changing too.
Yeah.
There was a different player in 2000 spring training than when I went to spring training in 1985 or 86.
Yeah.
The players' bodies had changed. The weight rooms had changed. The regiments had changed. A lot of things, ideas and mindsets have changed from how you prepare yourself to play a major league season and what you do or don't do. And everybody was into weightlifting, and that's something that stayed. Now you watch college ball players and they look like grown men.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. As you see, and again, as I say, the steroids and the things that started to happen around the end of your career, you think those guys, because my opinion is I'm not happy these guys did this, but I don't know how you have a Hall of Fame without Barry Bonds or Roger Clemens, but you tell the whole story and it's all on their plaque.
But I think eventually they'll get in.
Yeah.
I think eventually Pete Rose will get. You're going to get in for what you did.
Yeah.
And not what you didn't do.
Yeah.
And I think that those numbers, if you wanted to say Bond's career stops at a certain point.
Oh, he's still a Hall of Famer, right?
Pardon me?
Still a Hall of Famer before this.
He's still a Hall of Famer. And so, and Clemens is close. So I think they get in. Attitude's going to change.
Yeah.
The writers that voted before are not going to be around to vote later.
Yeah.
So I think that those guys are going to eventually get in because there's probably 4 or 5 guys in there, maybe more, that they were speculating that they did performance enhancing drugs. And they were saying, well, none of these guys are going to ever get in. And now guys are in. So that opens up the door for other guys.
Agreed. As far as your own career, are you happy with the way your career panned out? There were any regrets, things you would have done differently?
I wish we would have been able. I was on a team that made the playoffs. I missed that, and I was close. But getting 10 years is what guys strive for. And being able to play 10 years in the big leagues after being told when you get called up that you're only going to be up for 2 or 3 weeks, that was something that I'm proud of. And, being able to be a starter pretty much every day for 9 out of my 10 years in the big leagues, and all those things that I'm proud of, and I accomplished something that not a lot of people get to do. And I think the average career is 2.5, 3 years, and I played 10.
That's a good run. I'd sign up for that tomorrow myself.
Yeah.
Just sit on a bench. I'd sign up for that tomorrow. So, and post-career, you did some broadcasting. Tell us about your post-career and what Brian McRae's up to today.
I worked for ESPN for 2 years, 2000, 2001, then MLB.com from 2002 to 2007. And then I did some work with the Royals. I would fill in, do 30 games on radio or TV, did some college and minor league broadcasting of baseball games. And then I went back to school in 2012 and coached at a small school, Park University here in the Kansas City area from 2012 to 16. 2017, I coached at the University of Missouri and got my undergrad in 2018 and coaching in some college summer leagues, coaching some summer ball here in the area. And, so between coaching, broadcasting, and in 97, I bought in on the all sports radio station here in Kansas City. So I would do some Royals pre and post game there at the station that I part own. That we're still part of that group.
You went to broadcasting right after your career. Did you have any interest in coaching at the major league level, managing maybe?
No, I didn't want to travel that much.
Yeah.
I was gone enough, and I don't want the full season. College season is 50 games. So that was fine. And the college summer ball was 2 months. And I enjoyed that a lot more than being gone for 6 or 7.
Yeah. So let me get to a couple of questions before we let you go here. We got some from the audience here. Your audio went a little off there. I don't know what happened, but it's got a little tinny. I don't know what happened, but hopefully it'll come back. It did it one time before and came back. Actually, this one's for me. This is the Yankees, Danny. This is black. This isn't navy blue. I have all these different tops I wear in the show, Brian. Danny always gets on when I wear my Dodger blue. So this is black, not navy blue. So just to point that out. Chris says, hi, Brian. Taking you back to 1985 when you were only 7, but a big kid. Tell us about your first manager, little Joe Jones. Do you remember Joe
Jones? Was probably one of the guys that got me to understand very quickly the importance of just a lot of the little things that I needed to do. Leagues. He was hard on us, and we didn't like it at the time, and a lot of guys really didn't appreciate his style and his approach. But once I got to the big leagues, I understood. And Joe Jones I'm glad he was my manager earlier in my career and one of my coaches throughout my Royals minor league career.
And he did pass away, it looks like Chris says, last March. So rest in peace to Joe Jones. And sounds like he influenced a lot of people probably. In his...
Yes, he did.
Yeah. AC says athletes in college should be able to make money, as I think you referred to, off marketing themselves on social media and real life. The scholarships are the only thing that they should be giving from the school. So he's referring to the fact that now we've got this $21 million pot that they can just say, here's $2 million, come to the school. Do you still think they should get that money as well as the NIL outside of scholarships?
Well, I think the scholarships are earned.
Yeah. Right.
And they can be taken away if you don't do certain things.
Very true.
I think people don't understand that a scholarship is a 1-year contract that has to be renewed every year. So if you don't hit certain grades, off the field things, if you don't do certain things that are stipulated in that contract, they can pull that scholarship.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that. It's not a guarantee for 4 years, right?
No, nothing's guaranteed. It's a 1-year deal that needs to be renewed every year.
On the flip side, and I'll ask you this because I've thought about this a lot too. Do you think now, as the NIL money gets bigger and now there's this bucket of money I can give you to come to my school, do you think that there should be contracts signed that, if you don't stay, I get my money back? Or
there probably is.
Right.
I'm sure that if the scholarships are 1-year renewable deals, the NIL monies are 1-year renewable deals too. So if a guy goes to Kansas, gets $1 million for a year, and then transfers, if he doesn't hit everything that he needed to do at Kansas, he doesn't get to keep all that money.
Are we okay too at the same time that they'll set out bowl games and such if they're going to transfer, they're protecting their drafts?
I think bowl games are a farce anyway.
Yeah.
Season's too long.
Yeah.
Bowl games, if a guy's going to go to the NFL, getting ready for the combine is much better than playing in an exhibition game. In my mind.
So outside of the playoff you're talking about, or even inside?
Yeah, outside of the playoffs. Guys, okay. There weren't a lot of guys sitting out playoff games.
No, there's a few, but not many. Right.
But the other ones, they're glorified exhibition games.
Yeah, there's too many of them anyway. I mean,
there's way too many of them.
When you're struggling to find teams that finish 6-6 to go to bowl games, we don't need that bowl game, right?
And the kids just have another month where you got to make them practice where their bodies are beat up anyway.
Well, now you're talking about 17 games. If they go to all the way,
right,
they're going to play 17 games. That's a lot, right? So you're right. Rick wants to know about the craziest. This is his weekly question for everybody. Craziest teammates you played with?
Nothing right offhand. I mean, you heard of Turk Wendell doing all the brushing the teeth and
Turk.
Things like that. But as far as crazy, it's not anybody out of the ordinary.
Who would you say was the best teammate you had as a teammate? Not necessarily talent-wise, but the best teammate.
Probably one of the best teammates as I had was in Chicago with Mark Grace.
There was some talent on that team too. I'll tell you. Sandberg.
'95, we almost made the playoffs in Chicago. Yeah.
Did Ryan Sandberg? He retired.
He came back in '96
when you were there, right?
Yeah, I played with him '96, '97.
Great player. I know he wasn't quite as great when he came back, but he was a great player. How about guys? I always ask this question: who got the who'd you play with that got the most out of the least amount of talent?
It's hard to say because guys in the big leagues, they're talented.
Yeah.
So to get the most, not a guy I played with, maybe Jamie Moyer that pitched till he was almost 50 and threw 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't have been signed today.
Well, now they're all looking at radar guns, right?
I mean, that's what. So he was a guy that if you went and scouted him today, you would say no.
Yeah.
He never threw hard, but he knew how to pitch.
So there's probably a lot of guys that would be really solid major leaguers that are never going to get that opportunity, the way the game's being looked at today.
Right. On both sides. They're guys that can play a position, can do some things well, but their exit velo might not be that good. All the metrics may not be good. And that's a shame because baseball, to me, is one of the only sports that you don't have to be X amount of height, X amount of weight, you can, there's a place for guys to do something productive and help a team win without fitting into a slotted criteria that what they're trying to make guys, all your pitchers have to be this now. I don't think that fits in baseball. So there's a lot of good, talented kids that get left out.
Well, just the fact that, pretty much your strategy with pitchers is go out there and throw as hard as you can for as long as you can. That's got to be leading to a lot of these arm injuries and more. Maybe even the pitch clock adds to it. But I think a lot of the arm injuries are because of the way they treat pitchers. They don't pitch enough. They don't throw enough. And back in your day, you still see a decent amount of complete games and pitchers would throw between starts. And today, I don't think they do enough of that. And that leads to this plethora of injuries that we have.
Yeah, I think we could have another whole segment on
sure.
That. The game is more of a numbers game, as in metric numbers, video game numbers, than can he help me win a ball game or not?
Great point. I'm glad you said video game because I say that all the time and I hate it. What do you think Henry Aaron's exit velocity was on? I guarantee you it wasn't something that would light up the charts on most.
But it doesn't matter. Like, do you really care to see launch angle and exit velocity on TV when a guy hits a pop up?
Hate it.
It's an out.
Hate it.
Right.
He hit a 120-mile-an-hour single. Who cares? What? I don't get it.
Exactly.
So, what about the other rule changes quickly? And I'll finish up these comments. You were a guy who did, speed was part of your game during your career. Stolen bases are up, but to me, it's kind of a manufactured.
Stolen bases should have an asterisk on it.
There you go.
Bigger bases, can't throw over as much. So it's a little bit easier, or a lot easier, to steal bases now.
Yeah, because how many, you played a long career, and how many plays, I'm just watching games on TV, how many plays are bang, bang? Well, the used to be 90 feet. It's not 90 feet between bases anymore, and that's not a small thing. Nobody ever brings that up. They talk about the bigger bases, but the fact that it's whatever, it makes a difference that it's 89 feet whatever.
All of it makes a difference, and it changes the rules of the rules. The rule changes change statistically what baseball is. So the stolen bases, some of these other rules or some of these other stats are not as meaningful as they used to be because they've changed the rules that make it easier to do certain things.
Yeah, agreed. The shift.
A pitcher has to stay in for 3 batters. So all those things. So it was harder as a hitter before, when they could switch and match up lefty, lefty, righty, righty.
Yeah.
So they made things easier. It's easier to steal bases. They make some things easier for the offense. So stat wise, it's hard to compare. We may get 10 years down the line and say, well, such and such had all these stolen bases for his career. Not really.
Yeah, Dela Cruz right now is setting the world on fire. But again, there's got to be an asterisk there, as you mentioned.
Right, it's different rules. He's playing under different rules.
Yeah, I agree. You find a game. I find a game, again, I'm still a big baseball fan, but the game is not as exciting as it was in your time and even going back to your dad's time in the 70s. And
but the game it's not built for us.
Yeah.
It's exciting for the people that like strikeouts, home runs, and walks.
Yeah.
And bad defense.
I feel like I'm talking to myself all of a sudden here.
No, but the game is suited for a different person than our era. Of what we enjoyed watching in baseball is not what they want. Pitching duels, hit and runs, things like that, doubles, triple. The game is not evolved to the point where that's exciting to people.
Well, you mentioned video game baseball, right? 2-1.
Right.
Well, 2-1 pitching duels, well-played games are exciting to me and probably to you, but not to the younger generation who plays video games.
Right. So who they're trying to appeal to with all these rule changes and the things going on are not the people that watch the games in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah. Even speeding up the games, which I don't think we needed a clock to do. There's rules in the book that if you just enforced them, they would have sped up the game. But even that, it's just a more boring game played faster now, right? So
it's a boring game played faster, and you're spending premium money to watch less of a product. They're getting you in and out of there. They're getting you in and out of there in 2 hours and 20 minutes. But the price stays the same.
That's a great point. I mean, sitting at home, I like it only for the sense that I don't have to stay up till midnight to see the end of a Yankee game now. But, so what? It's been a boring game for 2 hours instead of 3.5.
But I enjoyed the leisurely time of sitting out there and hanging out at the ballpark for 3 hours.
That's part of the
you can watch a couple innings. You can walk around the stadium. You can say hi to your friends. Now you get there, and by the time you get settled, it's the 6th inning.
Man, I get a lot of comments to get here. I agree with you 100%, by the way. We talked about the Yankees-Royals rivalry. As a kid, were you part of that? Were you at the ballpark for a lot of those games?
I was bat boy and ball boy, so I got to see that first up close and personal, first-hand accounts of all the shenanigans that went on during the Yankee-Royals rivalries.
I think this one's geared towards you and your dad's relationship. Did the criticism and conversations that, like any player manager, took place at the ballpark and not at home?
Yeah, you don't talk about things that much at home. You're home. You get away from there, and that's your sanctuary. You spend enough time at the ballpark where you can talk about ballpark things.
And I know you didn't spend much time in Toronto, but Chris is in Toronto. He's a Toronto native and lives there now. What was your favorite part of playing in Toronto?
I enjoyed the city. It's a clean New York. I lived in the hotel in the ballpark, so I was close to my office.
Well, that's a good thing. There's just a couple more here, and we're going to let you go. Brian, I hear the designated position coaches that make a difference. True or false? And what hitting coach or position coach made the biggest impact on you? So designated position coaches have made a big difference in baseball?
Certain guys, they do. For me, it was my minor league coaches, the 5 years I spent in the minor leagues, I was with the same guys pretty much for that whole 5 years. And those are the coaches, our hitting instructors, the organizational hitting instructors. Joe Jones was one of those guys, Mike Lum. Those guys in the minor leagues were guys that you saw and you work with every year. You get to the big leagues, you may work with a different hitting coach every year. So I took what I learned from the minor league coaches that saw me for 4 or 5 years more than the guys that I was just around for a year or so.
Did your dad, actually, it's a good question. Dad was a great hitter for a long time. Did he have an impact on that part of your game?
Not much, no. Because by the time he got to me, I would already work with other people.
Yeah.
So he would do some, talk hitting with guys on some subtle things, but he let the hitting coach do his job. But by the time my dad got there, I'd already worked with our minor league instructors and hitting coaches with the Royals for almost 5 years. So those were the guys that I leaned on.
As you traveled, you played in both leagues, so you played in pretty much every city you could have possibly played in. Was there a place that you was favored for you to go, whether it was the fans, the food, the weather?
San Diego was the best.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My brother lived in San Diego for a long time.
You always knew when you're going to play. You always knew you're going to have good weather.
Trying to find something. Guys, I don't want to skip too many questions, but I want to get Brian out of here. I know he's been here a long time, and we do appreciate that. So I think we could pretty much covered it. Brian, I appreciate you coming in. Is there anything you want to share with us that you're involved with, charity-wise, anything that you want to leave us with before we let you go today?
I run a nonprofit baseball organization called Kansas City Sluggers, and we do high school age kids training, summer ball, fall ball. So I do a little bit of that. That landscape has changed also with the travel ball, and I'm just trying to keep the cost down so parents aren't spending an arm and a leg for their kids to have something to do and play ball over the summer and the fall.
That's awesome. Great. If there's any, if you look, I don't know if it's a fundraising thing or not, but if there's anything I can do, you give me links. I would have to put them on the my Facebook and social media outlets. I'll be happy for you.
I'll send you some information.
I appreciate that. And Brian, we appreciate your time today and getting in. And
sorry I was late, but thank you very much.
No worries at all. Thanks again. Have a great weekend.
All right.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. So Brian McRae, our late arriving guest, but we had a good time. Sorry I didn't get to all your questions, guys. In fact, since I got a few minutes, I wanted to, once I get guys here over an hour, I start to get a little antsy, but I'll go to some of your questions. And again, I don't think a lot of them I skipped. I can comment on some of these. Yes, he did. He had a really good career. He was a solid major league player. Danny brings up the writers and the committees. The writers, by the way, won't have much of an effect. I really didn't want to prolong that conversation too much, but they're not going to have an effect on these guys because by the time they get in, it'll be a committee, Danny, just like vote for the veterans. But I don't think that committee does a very good job, quite frankly. There are guys in the Hall of Fame who do not belong there. And there's guys that aren't there that do. Oh, Zach, sorry about that. Zach, I think Zach's a new viewer, and I'm sorry I missed this one, Zach. Hope if you're still with us. He had Brian in my clubhouse in Texas and always enjoyed his visits. Great guy. Believed he was an underrated player, solid player. Again, not a great player, but he did play good defense. He ran the base as well. A solid fundamental player in my mind, had a lot of doubles, hit 20 home runs a couple of times in his career, and I thought he was a solid player. And I apologize for not getting this. My question would be, what was your favorite visiting clubhouse to go to when you're playing? I'll get that answer, Zach, from Brian, and I'll share it on the Sunday Stream of Consciousness, so tune in then. And I apologize for not getting to it. I know Brian was running a little bit late, so I didn't want to go too much longer with him, and I apologize. Talked about the Orange Bowl last year. It was a joke. I think that was a game that Florida State played in, right? That's another good one, AC. Unfortunately, we ran out of time with Brian, and that happens. He does not like the no-shift rules. I know that for a fact, coming up from some conversations we had previously and some previous interviews I saw of him. Again, what's the point of the shift? We're going to get more into this, by the way. If I get Larry Sorensen on last week, we're going to talk about the rules a lot. Just didn't have time to dive into it. And, people want YouTube clips not bunting to move over the runner. I don't know, AC. I don't. Again, if you're defending the 3 true outcomes, I'm not a fan of it, and I never will be. Yes, home runs that come organically, but there's the fundamental part of baseball is really lacking today, and Brian pointed that out as well. And the game is played much differently. Even his career was less than 30 years ago. It's less than some of the guys I have on here. I'm not sure. I could be misunderstanding based on this comment what you're saying there. So the old days of the longest games had the most offense and the most drama. Not always. I'm reading an autobiography of Ed Kranepool right now, and I mean they played 2-1, 24-inning games. That's fine. Great pitching, great defense. I have those. Anyway, I appreciate your comments there, AC. I'm glad you joined us today. I hope you'll continue to join us. Sunday mornings at 8:30 Eastern with the Stream of Consciousness, where we talk about everything. And also Wednesdays with the College Football Huddle. If you're into college, certainly tune in then. And we have these interview shows. We'll have the MLB update at 3 o'clock today as well. What is that? 501c3 baseball. Oh, the Academy. Gotcha. We're going to post some stuff about that too. Thanks, Danny, for that. He did have a very good career. Nate, how you doing, buddy? Good to have you with us. Brian did have I'm glad to see you as one of your favorite players. I enjoyed Brian's career. I really did. Thank you, Danny. We got off to you're actually showing up late today was good for you because Brian didn't get in till like 9:40. No to respond to everything I say. I can ramble and I know it. No, it's no big deal, AC. I try to get to everybody's comments and you'll see it on Sunday morning at 5:30 for some of us. Yes, Danny. By the way, AC, I don't know where you're at, but Danny Fuller might be our most dedicated. Now, we have all great followers here. I love them and I compliment them, especially Sundays. Sundays, it's their show, AC. When you come in, we'll whatever you want to talk about, we'll talk about within reason. I'm not going to go, get in again. Sports. We get into some pop culture. Politics sneaks in a little bit, but I'm not going to make a big deal about it because I don't want that type of show. But, listen, well, I disagree with my viewers and they disagree with me a lot, but it's their show. And I love all my viewers. You guys did a great job helping me carry 40 minutes as we waited for the interview to start today. So I appreciate that, just like I do on Sundays, just like I do on the MLB update, just like I do on all the shows. And Danny, to finish my thought, well, I appreciate all of you. Danny's most dedicated because he's get up at 5:30 to watch his show and or 5:30 to watch the Sunday morning show. And I really appreciate that. Absolutely. Nate, just send me a message and we'll hook up a date. I don't know what date you're doing your show. And I'd love to have you on my college football show at some point too, to chat for a little bit as well. So, and especially in these next few weeks, maybe leading up to the season. So do me a favor, send me a personal message, will you? And we can either communicate there or give me your number and I'll be happy to text you. And sometimes it's easier because, we don't get on Facebook, or at least I don't right and left. So Danny with a blank message usually means stars. So thank you, Danny. Not necessary, but always appreciated. And nobody's ever obligated, but it's always appreciated. Thank you, stars for star. I appreciate that. Guys, we're going to wrap it up. These interview shows have gone long. Next week, still up in the air. Hopefully, Larry Sorensen will be with us. Then we got Sidney Moncrief on the 23rd. Great star at Arkansas and with the Milwaukee Bucks. And then Ernie DiGregorio on the 30th. So join us then, guys. Until then, have a great Friday. Have a great Saturday. And I'll see you Sunday morning. Keith Engle for TGI Sports Talks 101 with Keith Engle. Have a good day.
You're listening to Keith Engle, the host of TGI Sports Talk on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel.